afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Jenny. Only Anne could assemble a cast of thousands to say goodbye to her and thank you. It's lovely to see all of you. I knew we would have a full church, and we have. When we planned this event, we thought 1st of May, the first official day of summer in the old days. The sun will shine, the birds will sing, the blossom will be in full colour. What could be nicer than to have pleasant convivial refreshments in the cloister on the 1st of May? Well, here we are, May Day, and we'll have to make up for the deficiencies in the weather, but that's not East England for you. This is a place of warmth and hospitality and welcome and conviviality, and all the things that we've planned for this afternoon will happen in just the way that we did. And we're sorry about the lack of sunshine, but there we are. Well, I don't need to tell you about Anne, because many of you will know Anne actually much better than I do. She came here in 1997 as chapter steward, and in her job description, which I've had a look at, it says that the chapter steward was to be responsible for the use of the cathedral, visitor management, cleaning, public relations, administration, and other associated duties. It now takes about 6 people to do all those jobs, where once Anne did them single-handedly. I don't know how she managed it. And it's that ominous phrase, other associated duties. What a catch-all that is. And I think it's fair to say that in the years Anne has been here, she has caught a lot of plates that were spinning merrily in the air and seemed to end up in her capable hands. Before she came to Durham, she was working in the Diocese of Chichester as the secretary to the Diocesan Advisory Committee and various other committees of the diocese. Now, I used to chair the Diocesan Advisory Committee in my last diocese and here in Durham. And I know that that particular committee requires the most intensive dedication on the part of its secretary. It's not just a matter of taking the minutes, believe me. It's a huge administrative job, and the life of the diocese in terms of its church buildings depends on really efficient, and not just efficient, but humane management on the part of the secretary, because the secretary has to deal with lots of grumpy parish councils, incumbents of church buildings, and iron out plenty of ruffled feathers. Isn't that right, Anne? Yes. So it takes a person, a really rather special apologist, to do that job well, and I can say that from experience. Well, when I arrived a decade or more ago, it was in the backwater of Harry Potter. And my kids said to me, "Dad, you've missed the boat yet again. Why on earth couldn't you have gone to Durham when they were filming Harry Potter?" And they'd have given their eye teeth to meet the cast of Harry Potter, as I guess quite a few of you did when they were all here. And every time I see a Harry Potter film, or see Harry Potter referred to, I'm reminded of that, because I think that it's not to say that it was her finest hour. She's had so many wonderful, splendid hours. But it was quite an achievement to get Harry Potter here to Durham and film so successfully. And even in the 6 films that followed the first 2 that they actually made here, even in those remaining films, the image of Durham was well and truly stamped digitally on those films. They didn't need to come back because they got all the images they wanted, and those images survived all the way through. But you can see Durham Cathedral in all the Harry Potter films. So if ever Anne wanted a tribute, well, it's there in Harry Potter, and it will live on forever. And millions of young people unknowingly pay tribute, I think, to Anne's part in creating these legendary works of Harry Potter art. For me personally, I just want to say a few things about how I have valued working with Anne ever since I came. I've always valued her energy and her enterprise and her flair and her imagination. Anne's one of these people who's always seen the possibilities of a great place like this and what it could offer a wider public. But, and this is a really key but, and I'd be surprised if others don't mention it in a minute, she's always seen the cathedral as first and foremost God's place, a place of worship, of pilgrimage, of spirituality and prayer. And that comes before everything else. And it's been fundamental to the way Anne has worked among us and with us. And I can't tell you how important it is to have colleagues who believe the same sort of things as you do about a place like this. We want the cathedral to mean so many things to so many people, but we never want to sacrifice its role as a holy place, a sacred space, a place that we can say is God's place, a place for God's people. So that's been something I've hugely valued in Anne all the years that I've been here. The second thing has been the very impressive way in which she has led so many volunteers in the life of this cathedral. And many of you, most of you, are volunteers, stewards, guides, chaplains and others. And it takes great skill to inspire and motivate volunteers, as well as to manage the complexities of having as many volunteers in a place as we do here in the cathedral. I've always enjoyed taking part in training days that she's organised for volunteers. I love those little games that she plays and the little prizes that she brings out. I just think of sweets on sticks, lollies, that sort of thing. And I hope I'm not stealing somebody else's thunder, but I am. Well, I just want you to know that these things don't go unnoticed, even by the Dean, who loves to join in a bit of fun. And I think the flair that Anne has shown in making training fun has been one of the great gifts that she's brought us. But I also know about lots of little acts of kindness that Anne has done for stewards, for volunteers. Most of those go unnoticed, but you will know who you are, and I'd be surprised if there are many people here who haven't been on the receiving end of these generous, kind acts and thoughts and prayers that I know have been so important to her. Thirdly, this is a piece of work which she and I have perhaps contributed particularly to, Anne's real wish to see us interpret the cathedral well. I'm thinking of literature. She and I had quite a lot of fun preparing the guidebook. In fact, it's gone through several iterations, that guidebook. And one of the first things that she asked me very politely and graciously to do, but you know that Anne has a certain way of asking, which is really in order. You know, this is something that needs to be done, and you, Mr. Dean, will do it. So I, early on, knew my place when it came to Anne's role in this cathedral. But seriously, I've hugely enjoyed that collaboration on guidebooks, on pilgrim guides and materials, prayer cards, a whole lot of things that Anne has really begotten during her time here. And I think she's one of these people of whom we can say, and there are a number of other colleagues of whom this is also true, if you want a testimony, if you want a memorial, if you want a tribute to what these good people have given this place, just look around you and you'll see it for yourself. And in Anne's case, you'll see it in a wonderful, happy cohort of volunteers and in the quality of some of the literature that we produce. And then, finally, to mention Anne's management of large events. Harry Potter and other such events, yes, but I'm also thinking of university ceremonies, matriculation, degree congregations, which Anne has more or less looked after herself, single-handedly. And in my journeys around the university as a member of the University Council, I've generally speaking, tributes to the cathedral for its management of these great ceremonies, which matter so much to students and their families, but also tributes by name to Anne for the way in which she has led this particular aspect of our work and enabled those great events to pass off smoothly and happily. So I'd like to say thank you to Anne for all of that as well. So there are some personal tributes I wanted to pay this afternoon, but we should now hear from two people who've worked especially closely with Anne over the years. And first, let me introduce Lilian Groves.
It's very difficult to know what to say when you don't know what everybody else is going to say. The Dean has already picked some of my speech, but never mind. It's also, I think, difficult to do a retirement speech that doesn't sound like a eulogy. And I know Anne didn't want a eulogy. So I decided to give her some history. I actually stand here as one who at least partially once turned Anne down for the job of chapter steward. I don't think she's ever quite forgiven me for that. When the very first chapter steward, Dennis Trigg, retired, the chapter clerk, the then chapter clerk, said in a meeting of the visitors committee that he supposed a woman might be able to do the job. I thought this very condescending, and I actually won't tell you. I nearly did, but I won't tell you what I actually caught. Use your imagination. Those holding senior posts in the cathedral today may be surprised to know that 20 years ago there wasn't a single senior post that was occupied by a woman. In fact, I, as a volunteer, was the only woman on a cathedral committee, other than that of the Friends. Things were changing. This was the year in which the Church of England ordained the first women priests, against much opposition, but not from our cathedral chapter. They were warmly welcoming, and I think really were looking forward to change in this cathedral. Anne applied for the post of chapter steward, and to be honest, she was the best candidate for the post as originally envisaged. However, in the meantime, I have been urging chapter, I think they probably thought I'd been harassing them, to appoint an education officer. The solution at this time was to appoint a chapter steward who would spend the equivalent of 1 hour a day on education. This is how I came to be on the interviewing panel. It meant that Anne, not having any teaching experience, was not suitable for the post, as now envisaged, and Wendy Nugent was appointed. Fortunately, in the 2 years Wendy was here, she made such an impact on education that when she resigned, it was agreed to appoint an education officer as well as a full-time chapter steward. This time, Anne was successful. And I wasn't on the committee that time, so... During Anne's time here, the number of stewards and guides has expanded by at least 50%. If you'd had a gathering like this 18 years ago, the cathedral would not have been full as it is now. And yet Anne knows every steward, and not just by name. At a recent senior stewards training, I said that Anne nourished the stewards, and I can't think of any other way of expressing her care for their well-being.
A tiny way of saying thank you for everything that you've done.
I'm not going to say very much on behalf of those of us who have worked with Anne in the office, but I do want to say that Anne must go down in history as is the only person to survive 2 flower festivals at Durham Cathedral. Most of us who were involved last year know just how much work was involved in one, and Anne has 2 under her belt, so it's very appropriate that we're sending you off with flowers. But we're also enabling you to go off to Australia and New Zealand, I gather, in the new year, because Anne has indicated that as a leaving gift, she would like a cheque that will help her enjoy a very well-earned holiday, visit, exploration, catching up with family, the other side of the world. And so on behalf of all colleagues in the office and volunteers, I have here 2 cards. Trust Anne to need 2 cards to say goodbye to people and a cheque. Thank you very much.
Well, Anne is never short of a word or two, and she's not going to disappoint us now, will she? The microphone is yours.
Wow. Yes.
I did think of bringing some lollipops. One thing my father said, who was a vicar, was never thank people by name because you'll always miss somebody out. How wise he was. I have an exceptionally generous cheque there. I'll tell you now, it's for £1,000. That I will use when I go on my great trip next year. All my godchildren have gone travelling, so I'm going travelling. I'm not going in any hostels, I can tell you. What I will use it for is treats. They're usually food. I love, as you might gather from my size, fine dining. And so, every so often, I will sit there, hopefully in a really nice restaurant, having really good food, usually being suspected of being a critic, because that's what females on their own are often suspected of. You get very good service, usually. Not always, sometimes you're stuck next to the kitchen. But so I'll use it for things like that. Thank you so much for the gift. But thank you also for being you, for supporting me, for encouraging me, for making me laugh an awful lot of times. And I think you sit there, but there are an awful lot of people in the 16 and a half years I've been here who cannot be here today for all kinds of reasons, and I do think of them. So, thank you so much. If you say you work in a cathedral, people say, oh, it must be so lovely. Yes. I work in an office, but that must be so lovely. It's small. Working at a cathedral, working at this cathedral, is like any other job in many ways. There's a lot of stress, a lot of strain, but also a great deal of enjoyment and commitment. I'll be absolutely honest with you, I don't think I'll miss the job, but what I will do is miss everybody I have been involved with. So, and I'm now just about to break my own rule and mention somebody or group of people. When I was asked if I wanted to leave Hindu, I said yes, and it might be large. How can we do the catering? Well, we won't get you all in the prior's hall because we know it only takes 80 legally, and all this thing. I said, DIY in the cloister. So I'll apologise for the weather now. Thank you, Carol, for organising it all. And thank you for persuading all the extra volunteers to volunteer a bit extra. So, I am going to enjoy my retirement. You will see me back here. In fact, I'm here tomorrow taking a group of friends around. It is booked in, I can tell you. So you will keep on seeing me around. All I can say is thank you for being you. I've enjoyed it pretty much.
So, all that remains is to go and enjoy these DIY food and refreshments which Carol and her team have organised. I would like to echo thanks on behalf of the Dean and myself to those of you who have organised this. And also to all of you, because it's not often we get all the stewards together in one place. Usually we just see some of you. But thank you to all the volunteers and to all the staff for all the wonderful work you do at the Cathedral. And let's go and celebrate Anne and celebrate our mutual life at the Cathedral by going outside into the cold where there should be refreshments waiting for us. Thank you.